Equal's eye stood on the balcony of my apartment, staring out at the bustling streets of Manhattan, the city that never sleeps. The glow of the city lights shimmered against the darkening sky, and the hum of traffic became a familiar feeling that swelled within me like a symphony, each honk and shout a note in my complex score. I was supposed to be enjoying the view, but instead, my stomach churned with anxiety. Just 2 floors below me, in that polished brownstone where the pavement met the stoop, was the source of my unrest, Charles Hartman. The man I once loved, and the man who had shattered my heart into what felt like a million tiny pieces. The air was thick with the scent of rain mingling with smoke rising from a street vendor's cart nearby, a reminder of the life that beat unapologetically around me. That life, my life, was about to take a turn I had been plotting for far too long. You can do this, Jessica. You're strong, I whispered to myself, gripping the railing tightly. I could almost picture grabbing Charles by the collar and shaking him until he understood the pain he had caused me, but that was too easy. I wanted him to suffer. I knew how it felt to have someone you love rip away your dignity with an unforgiving separation. Hey, Jess! A familiar voice broke through my thoughts, pulling me away from my dark daydreams. My best friend Lily stood in the doorway with a concerned look written across her face, her curly hair bouncing with the slight weight of the evening breeze. You missed the movie. I thought you were all in for the late night show of The Last Goodbye. Sorry, Lily, I said, forcing a smile, though the corners of my lips felt heavy. I was just thinking. Thinking or plotting? She teased, walking over and leaning against the railing. The scent of her citrus perfume mingled with the rain-soaked air, a refreshing reminder of her vibrant personality. You have that look on your face. I narrowed my eyes, pretending to be playful yet serious at the same time. What look? The look of a woman ready to take on the world? More like the look of a woman who might just start a fire in her own life, she replied, her dark brows raised. Does this have anything to do with Charles? My heart raced at the mention of his name. That one syllable had the power to shift my entire mood. Maybe, I admitted softly, leaning back into the cool metal of the balcony. I shouldn't bring Lily into this. I wanted to keep the plan under wraps, after all it was mine to carry. You've got to let him go, she said, her tone more serious now. You can't keep putting yourself through this. It was over. You deserve. Deserve what? I snapped, my hands clenching around the railing so hard that my knuckles turned white. To be happy. To forget, I can't just wipe the slate clean like it never happened. He ruined me, Lily. The anger bubbled uncontrollably within me as the memories flashed in rapid succession. His careless betrayal, the biting words, and the coldness in his eyes when he walked out. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing the memories to fade. I am going to make him understand what he did, and then I will be free. Lily shrugged, but I could see the worry etched in her features. You think revenge is the answer? That's not going to heal anything. You will just end up hurting even more. I scoffed at her words, almost laughing. You don't understand. It's more than revenge, it's justice. I want him to feel a fraction of the pain he put me through. What's the plan then? She asked, crossing her arms. Her curiosity was piqued, but I could sense the disapproval radiating from her. I have it all figured out, I said, finally turning to face her fully. You know Caroline, right? The one from work. Well, she's been texting me about how Charles is in a new relationship with someone she knows. I'm going to get close to her, act like I'm her friend, and learn everything I can about him. I'll make him think he has a second chance, then I will pull the rug out from under him just like he did to me. Lily's mouth fell open slightly, her eyes wide as if I had just declared a plan to rob a bank. You're serious? You really think that will help? It does help, trust me, I said with conviction. He was a master manipulator, and I'll become better at his game. I just need to play my cards right. She remained silent for a moment, staring at me as if seeing me for the first time in years, the vulnerable layers of me stripped away to reveal this more feral side, one she had never seen before. I'm nervous for you, she finally said, her voice more subdued. Don't be, I replied, and somehow the calmness in my words flared with an undeniable heat of certainty. This is my story now. I control it. Lily stepped back, running a hand through her curls, signaling she was overwhelmed. You know I will always be here for you, no matter how crazy this gets. Just keep me in the loop, okay? I nodded, appreciating her unwavering support. All I ask for is a little understanding. I will keep you in the loop. The city below danced with life, even as our conversation darkened the mood on the balcony. I could hear the laughter of a group of friends wandering by, the clinking of glasses from a bar across the street, and the occasional shriek of joy from a couple as they stumbled through their own love story. Just so you know, Lily said, breaking the stillness again, I will stage an intervention if I feel you are going too far. Too far? I laughed lightly, brushing the loose strands of hair back from my face. You know me, I am never too far. She squinted at me, her warm brown eyes pressing deep into my facade, searching for a sign of warmth instead of the cold resolve. What if he gets hurt? Good, I breathed, turning back toward the city, focusing on the neon glow of signs and the swaying silhouettes of the skyline. He deserves that and so much more. It felt good to stand in the eye of my storm, to finally feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins as I laid out my plans. The next week would involve subterfuge and strategy, employing my professional skills to infiltrate his new life with a secretive precision that would paint my intentions in the purest shade of revenge. The invasive thoughts of him stirred, redundant yet persistent, choking me until I gasped for breath. Okay, I just need a drink, I declared, forcing the anxious air from my lungs. We should hit that new rooftop bar, Sky High. I hear the cocktails are amazing. Lily rubbed the back of her neck, her usual excitement replaced with a palpable tension. Are you sure you are up for it? You're a little intense right now. Intense? I'm fabulous? I put on a playful tone, flipping my hair back over one shoulder. Let's go, I need to feel the city's pulse. Plus, I promise I will get my mind off things. She eyed me hesitantly but nodded. Fine, but let's keep it light tonight. Promise. Promise, I said, though a part of me was swelling with anticipation, the temptation of vengeance lurking just beneath the surface. As we made our way inside, the world outside began to dim just a little, the light from the street lamps blurring as I stepped into the warmth of my illusory freedom. Each step felt heavy with expectation, and the weight of every heartbeat took me closer to my retribution, no longer the empty shell that Charles had left behind, but a woman ready to ignite the flames of her carefully crafted revenge. I took a deep breath, feeling a blend of nervous excitement and resolve. The night was still young, and as I gazed into the future, I knew the real game was just beginning. I stood at the edge of the roof, the city sprawling beneath me like an intricate web of glass and steel. The late afternoon sun bathed Manhattan in a warm, golden hue, but all I felt was the chill of the wind whipping around me, ruffling my hair as if it were trying to pry loose the thoughts locked away in my mind. The horizon glowed orange, and I could see the shadows of the skyscrapers stretching long and dark against the pavement below. This was where it had all happened, where everything had changed for me. The spot felt shrill with memories, each suffocating me just a little more. I pulled my cardigan tighter around my body, seeking some comfort from the chill in the air, but it was useless. The cold was nothing compared to the freezing grip of betrayal that had taken hold of my heart. Just a few blocks away, I knew Richard was probably in his sleek office, wearing that smug grin that had once charmed me. I could almost hear his laughter in my mind, smooth as silk but littered with condescension. The memories flickered like an old movie reel, him leaning back in his leather chair, adjusting his cufflinks, and flashing that perfect smile that had melted away all my defenses. I had trusted him, believed in what we had built together. 2 years ago, we had made plans, dreamed of a future that now seemed as distant as the stars in the night sky. My thoughts spiraled downward, and for a moment I had to close my eyes and breathe deeply, reminding myself why I was here atop this building. It was time to take back what he had stolen from me. Jessica? A familiar voice broke the heavy silence. I turned to see Ava, my closest friend since we met in college, climbing the last few steps to join me. She looked concerned, her brow furrowed. What are you doing up here? You shouldn't be alone. Her concern wrapped around me like a soft blanket, but I pushed the warmth away. I didn't need comfort right now, I needed resolve. I just needed to think, I replied, forcing a smile that I hoped looked genuine. The view is nice up here. I gestured vaguely at the skyline, but Ava could see right through my act. Thinking is not what I would call this. She stepped closer, her determination palpable. I am not letting you do this alone. You do not have to carry this weight by yourself, Jess. It helps to be alone, Ava. Alone is the only way I can sort through all these feelings. I felt the tightness in my chest, the hot pang of betrayal simmering just beneath the surface. I could not let my emotions spill over in front of her. Ava crossed her arms. Isn't that part of the problem? You deal with everything on your own. You can't just bottle it up until you explode. She paused, looking out over the city. No, Richard hurt you, but this is not the way to handle it. You need to talk it out, to scream, to cry. But what if talking leads me to forget? I looked back at her, the frustration bubbling up like a soda shaken too hard. What if I need this anger? This is my fuel, Ava. Without it, I don't feel strong enough to move forward. He took everything I cared about. Jessica, anger is a powerful emotion. You can let it consume you, or you can learn how to harness it for something constructive. Ava looked at me, her dark eyes shimmering with sincerity. What are you planning? I turned my gaze back to the streets below, remembering how I had started to plan. I am going to go to his office tomorrow. I will confront him. I spoke with conviction, but the truth was I had no idea what I was going to say. A part of me was terrified of what I might reveal, the depths of my pain, the raw truth of that betrayal. You are talking about Richard, right? She questioned, her eyebrows raised. He can't simply change. A confrontation won't fix it. He'll just brush you off like an annoying fly. I am not just an annoying fly. My voice sharpened as I said it, venom dripping from each word. He knew how to play me like an instrument, and I let him do it. I was blinded by my love. Confronting him won't solve anything. Her voice softened as worry knitted her brow. What will you say? What will you do? Talk to me. I swallowed, letting the heat rise in my chest. What would you suggest? Should I just let him live his life, happy and content, while I'm left with the wreckage? What if I want to rewrite the ending to this story? What story would that be? One where you sink down to his level? The truth is, you're better than that. You deserve so much more than petty revenge. You need to show him that you can rise above. The satisfaction of revenge is temporary. Temporary or not, it feels damn good to think about. Don't you want to see him squirm? Doesn't that feel like justice? The anger boiled over in my voice. I was shaking with the intensity of my feelings. Justice? Ava echoed, looking at me like I had lost my mind. Don't tell me you're going to blackmail him or something crazy like that. Think about what you would need to do to make it happen. It's not just about the act, it's about what it means for you afterwards. Maybe there would be a layer of closure after getting back what he took from me. What's left of my confidence, pride, and dignity? I said, bitterness biting at every syllable. He stole that from me when he chose his opportunities over me. I want him to feel the weight of his actions. The world should see him for what he truly is. Ava took a deep breath, her shoulders sagging slightly. And what if the world sees you? What if you become a reflection of the worst parts of him? Revenge can wage a war that consumes you as much as it hurts the other person. I know you feel like you have lost everything, but don't go down that path. Have seen you before, fierce, intelligent, not defined by someone else's choices. I turned away from her, resting my elbows on the cool metal railing. I can't go back to the way things were. I want to be that person again. I paused, feeling the wind slip through my fingers. But I need to do something to make it real. Then find your way back to who you were without revenge. Find your own power and get back on your feet. I could hear concern lace her voice, but I was not ready to hear it. Not now. I looked down at the streets below, feeling my heart harden, steeling myself against any further debate. What should I do? I whispered softly, almost as if I were asking the universe instead of Ava. You have to figure out who you are without him first, she said gently, stepping beside me. And remember that revenge is a pit that pulls you in deeper, not something that rises you up. Whatever you choose, I will be here to support you. I nodded, sliding my fingers along the cool metal railing, contemplating her words. The noise of the city around us seemed distant as I submerged deeper into my thoughts. If I let go of the anger, if I stepped back from the edge of this descent, I felt fear creeping in. What would remain? A shell of a woman defeated by love and betrayal? Not knowing how to reclaim everything he had taken from me terrified me more than the surge of reckless retribution. There has to be something I could control, a way to restore my sense of power without ruining myself completely. I don't know who I am supposed to be now, I said. We can figure it out together, Jess. We will find a way to bridge the gap between your past and your future, but you have to be willing to step into the light rather than wallow in the darkness. Ava's optimism felt like sunlight that pierced the gloomy clouds in my heart. A tiny flicker of hope kindled, but I crushed it quickly. What if confronting Richard is my way to the light? Ava shook her head slowly, firm but kind. Revenge offers no light, it is a dead end. Consider this your moment to breathe and reflect. Use it wisely. The essence of who you are resides within. That is what's worth finding again. I felt my resolve crack and fracture, waves of uncertainty washing over me. Maybe she was right, but the question lingered like a whisper in the air. How could I reclaim that power without descending further into darkness? My eyes flicked toward the golden horizon, and in it, I searched for the courage I had misplaced somewhere along the way. The city buzzed below as the sounds of hurried footsteps and distant conversations drifted upward, but it felt as though I was encased in glass, separated from it all. The warmth of the sun began to fade, a herald of the night creeping in, and I felt a chill brush up against my skin. Let's go back inside. Ava squeezed my shoulder, grounding me nonetheless. We can either muse over feelings or come up with a plan. You would be amazed what conversations over coffee can inspire. Reluctantly, I nodded, feeling the burden slowly lift. Okay, coffee it is. Maybe I can do some reflecting. Taking one last look at the breathtaking city that had served as my old reality, I turned, leading Ava back towards the door. The air grew heavier, the wind howling at our backs as we made our way down the stairs, leaving behind the rooftop where shadows loomed. After all, although the city below felt connected to the voice of betrayal, it was also the backdrop of my opportunity to reclaim who I had once been, and who I could still become. The sun hung low in the sky like a spilled brush of orange paint, casting elongated shadows across the cluttered table in my tiny Manhattan apartment. A few loose papers fluttered around, sharing space with scattered takeout containers and an empty mug that still bore the faint scent of burnt coffee. It was in this barely there ambience, where the distant hum of traffic mingled with the quiet desperation of my thoughts, that I began to map out my revenge. The incident with Jeremy, my former best friend and now my sworn enemy, had left a bitter taste in my mouth that I could not wash away. The betrayal was not just personal, It was a blow that shattered my already fragile sense of trust in the world around me. I had already made a decision to confront him, but just confronting him wasn't enough. I wanted to make him feel what I felt. I wanted him to understand the weight of his betrayal. I glanced at the clock on the wall. It reminded me how slowly time seemed to move since that fateful day. My mind raced through possibilities as I ran my fingers through my hair, a nervous habit I had adopted in the wake of my heartbreak. I needed a plan. Okay, just think, I muttered to myself, my voice echoing in the stillness, almost like an incantation. The very mention of his name sent anger coursing through my veins, the way hot molten lava flows relentlessly from a volcano. I remembered the conversations we had, his charming laughter, the confidences we shared, the promises he made. I had trusted him more than anyone else in the world, but somehow he had turned my trust into a weapon against me. With a jarring clarity, my memories transformed into images of our last confrontation, like a film that played on a loop. I could see him clearly, standing in front of me with that infuriating smirk on his face. Jessica, it's not personal, he had said, as if that made it all okay. It's just business. My blood boiled at the thought of those words, casual and dismissive, as if the years we spent as friends could be swept aside like they were nothing. Not personal. I whispered, almost as if speaking an incantation of my own, easier for you to say when you're not the one left picking up the pieces. The thought of his indifference only fueled my need to act. I pulled my laptop closer, its cold metallic surface gleaming under the ambient glow of my desk lamp. It was a conduit for my conspiracy, an arsenal I could wield to execute my revenge. I took a deep breath and opened a blank document, allowing myself the freedom to explore the outline of my plan, shaking off the lingering doubts like a wet dog ridding itself of rain. The blinking cursor stared back at me, challenging me to begin. Fine, I said aloud, steadying my resolve, let's do this. My heart thumped like a drumline pounding out a rhythm, a mix of excitement and fear, but I couldn't let fear dominate me. I owed it to myself to be bold. Step 1, gather intelligence, I stated knowingly, the burgeoning coldness of my thoughts taking shape. The first step toward revenge was to uncover what Jeremy was currently involved in, his weaknesses, his vulnerabilities. He had a new job at a tech startup that boasted the latest innovations like social media perfection. I had to find a way to infiltrate that world. My fingers tapped across the keyboard as I began to scour LinkedIn and social media. Scrolling through profiles, I stumbled upon a familiar face, someone I hadn't thought of in years. Tara. Jeremy and Tara had dated briefly, but the relationship had ended badly, leaving behind a trail of bitterness. I had liked her not because she was perfect, but because she understood Jeremy's charm wasn't always stable. A smile crept onto my lips. What if I reached out to her? I murmured to myself, excitement bubbling within me as the possibility unfolded like a flower in bloom. I quickly drafted a message, pouring out my thoughts as if I were writing in a diary. Hey Tara, I hope you remember me. It's Jessica, Jeremy's friend from way back. I know you might not want to talk to me, but I could really use your help. I hesitated before clicking send, my heart racing. The fear of what I was doing came creeping back. What if she ignores me? Or worse, what if she tells him? I bit my lip, reminding myself that nothing worthwhile comes easy. You are already in too deep, Jessica. No turning back now, I whispered, staring at the cursor blinking expectantly, daring me to act. I hit send and let out a shaky breath. Now we wait, I said, leaning back in my chair, the wood creaking beneath me. Just then the phone buzzed on my desk, nearly sending my heart into my throat. It was Tara, almost instantly replying. Hey Jessica, of course I remember. What do you need? I'd love to catch up. The words brought a rush of relief as they filled my screen. Okay, this might actually work, I murmured excitedly. Step 2, meet and persuade. In the back of my mind, a strategy began to form. If I could convince Tara that Jeremy hadn't changed, I could use her resentment against him. I quickly replied, proposing a coffee meetup the next day at a quaint cafe in the Upper West Side, a place I knew she liked. Perfect. I will see you tomorrow then. I hit send again, feeling a growing anticipation swimming in my stomach. I had spent enough time cowering in fear of Jeremy's betrayal. It was time to harness that energy and channel it into something productive. I glanced around my apartment, a wave of realization crashing down on me. As I organized my ideas, I made notes about possible conversation topics to reignite any old resentment Tara might still carry. I wanted to approach this carefully. It wasn't about attacking her with accusations. No, I needed to bait her softly, revealing Jeremy's darker side without outright declaring anything. I practiced my lines silently under my breath, trying them on for size. Tara, have you heard any news about Jeremy? He just seems so different lately. He sold us all out in the worst way possible, doesn't he? My mock dialogue faded into anxious silence. I could almost imagine the sting of her response. He hasn't changed, Jess. He's always been self-serving. Yes, that was it. I felt electric with the chance of this working. My mind whirled with scenarios, each lined with the potential of reclaiming my life, even if it meant bringing Jeremy down with me. As the evening wore on, the sky deepened into darker hues, and the ambient noise of the city outside permeated my senses. I could hear faint sirens blending with laughter, the shuffling of hurried footsteps lining the sidewalk below, clarity coursing through me like a liquid fire. The planning invigorated me. Step 3, execute the plan, I mused, the words echoing in my mind as I gazed out of my small window. My eyes caught a glimpse of a sharp, heavy frost forming on the edges of neighboring buildings. The chill was pressing against the glass, a stark contrast to the heat roaring in my chest. I flipped open my notebook again, doodling memories of times I'd spent with Jeremy, good moments distorted now into my vengeful thoughts. You made me feel small. I will not shrink anymore, I wrote fiercely, punctuating each word with a pen stroke that felt powerful underneath my fingertips. I buried deeper into the details of my revenge, envisioning a world where Jeremy would suffer every single consequence of his actions. The sound of my own heart echoed in the silence as I began to outline further manipulation tactics I could use with Tara. I worked so intently that the hours slid away unnoticed, disappearing in the sea of my thoughts. Tomorrow, I whispered as I tucked my notebook away, slipping it between the stacks of worn books that had now become a makeshift shrine to my revenge. Tomorrow, I take back my power. I fell asleep that night with those words repeating in my mind, nestled amongst thoughts of flames licking at the walls of Jeremy's world, ready to rise and consume. It was time for retribution, and I was prepared to do whatever it took to achieve it. The pang of anger that had so deeply rooted in my heart had become sharpened, honed to a fine edge that sought its mark. Tomorrow I would meet Tara, and the heart of my plan would begin to unfurl like a deadly flower, blooming for all the world to see. The door to the bar swung open with its classic creak, pulling in the distant sounds of Manhattan's nightlife. I stood there for a heartbeat, letting the lively atmosphere wash over me. Strands of neon light flickered above, reflecting off glossy wooden surfaces and the polished brass accented around the mirrored back wall. With every step I took inside, the smell of aged whiskey and freshly spilled beer grew thicker, mingling with the faint scent of sweat and vulnerability. Tonight, this was my stage, and I was ready to play my part. The warmth from the bar counter beckoned me like a long-lost friend, reminding me of long-gone carefree nights. I wasn't here for nostalgia, though. I was here for something much darker. My heart raced, thrumming like a bass drum inside my chest as I scanned the crowd, my eyes landing on the back corner booth. There he was, Mark Williams. He had tilted his head back slightly, laughing too loudly at something a friend said, a bitter reminder of how genuine his laughter could sound. The rugged lines on his sun-kissed face caught the bar's dim light, creating deep shadows that whispered of the careless man he used to be. My stomach turned, nodding with sick anticipation. This was my moment. The man who had stolen my dreams and crushed them under the weight of his arrogance. Sitting there like royalty, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing, I approached, weaving through clusters of laughter and the clinking of glasses. Each step was calculated, my mind racing faster than my feet. Images of the past flooded my thoughts, how I had once loved him, needed him, and believed in him. But love was a fragile spell, and once it shattered, the pieces became sharp and piercing. The betrayal felt like it had just happened yesterday, and all those feelings simmered beneath the surface, igniting my desire for revenge. Hey, Mark, I said, my voice even as I slid into the seat across from him. The comfortable familiarity of the booth felt at odds with the cold fire in my veins. Long time no see. He turned to me, surprise painted across his face before it shifted into a defiant grin. Jessica, is that you? Wow, this is unexpected. His tone was feigned lightness, masking the tension between us like a tightrope suspended over the chaos of our shared past. The jubilant buzz of the bar-like static electricity seemed to retreat at my arrival, leaving the space filled with an unmistakable weight. Yeah, well, I didn't come here to reminisce, I replied, crossing my arms. My own uncertainty surprised me. I remembered the prickle of nerves whenever I had been near him before, and now it felt like holding a loaded gun. I came to talk. It's been a while since you made your grand exit from my life, after all. Mark leaned back, that infuriating smirk never leaving his lips. Can't say I expected your welcome to be so warm. He glanced around, as if assessing the nearest escape routes. I thought you might have moved on, or I don't know, found someone better. Someone better? You mean the other man, or the other dozen men? I let the disdain seep into my tone. How typical. His arrogance, the misguided belief he could brush our history aside like crumbs on the table, made my blood boil. What do you want, Jess? If this is about the past, he began, dismissing my presence with a wave of his hand. I could see the gears turning in his mind. He thought he could shrug off the truth, thinking it had faded into obscurity with the passage of time. No, this is about the future, Mark. I leaned closer, feeling the heat radiate between us, and willed myself to remember the girl I was before he had left shattered pieces of herself scattered everywhere. Your future, your dreams. Do you remember how you trampled all over mine? My voice dropped low, each word dripping with ice. Jessica, come on, he laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. We were young, we had crazy dreams. Nobody ever really ends up where they think they will. Exactly, Mark. Nobody except you managed to go on with life while I was left grieving my own hopes, I pressed, cutting through his charade. You could have been there, you should have been there, but instead you chose her, didn't you? The bitterness clawed at me. I had buried those memories deep, but now they were rising, hungry for daylight. His expression shifted. It was a fleeting crack in his composed veneer. Let's not go there, he said tightly. What's done is done. I chose. Yes, you chose for both of us. You chose to leave, and I had to pick up the pieces. It's like you ripped up the blueprints of my life, I shot back. Did you ever consider what it felt like to watch the life we planned dissolve while you were busy playing house with someone else? You wouldn't understand, he said, shaking his head dismissively. Things were complicated. Complicated? You think that gives you a free pass? You walked away, Mark. You shattered my faith in what love should be, I whispered, my voice quivering under the weight of old wounds reopening. And now look at me, I'm standing here owning my demons while you're pretending to still be the king. My pulse raced. The air was electric, and the surrounding noise faded into the distance like white noise. King, I'm just a man trying to get by, he defended himself, but I could see the cracks in his bravado. You're holding on to the past so tightly, Jess. It's unhealthy. I let out a bitter laugh. Unhealthy? You mean like cheating, lying, and leaving someone to rot? I leaned back into the booth, soaking in the visual of him. He had the nerve to act as if time had made him wiser, but in reality, he was the same immature boy wrapped in adult clothes. You'll never change, Mark. What is this really about? His tone shifted, dropping the bravado and becoming more serious. If you're here for closure, I can't give you that, and honestly, I don't owe you anything. No, I said, the finality in the word hanging heavily in the air between us. You don't owe me closure, but you do owe me truth? I leaned forward, feeling my voice sharpen like a knife. Tell me how it felt to look me in the eye and decide I wasn't worth your time anymore. How did that feel? He clenched his jaw, the slick veneer of confidence slipping as he shifted uncomfortably. I didn't decide that on a whim, Jessica. Then tell me why, I insisted, my heart pounding with the rush of adrenaline. We had a future, laughter, dreams, you just tossed it away. Tell me it wasn't just a game for you. Jessica, please? He raised his hands in a half-baked surrender, the shimmer of doubt glinting in his eyes. It was complicated. I made mistakes. I was scared. Scared? You were scared to commit, scared of our life together. You let fear destroy us? The intensity of my words flowed with the fire of unresolved pain. You chased what looked good on the surface instead of what was right. And now look at you, tied to a life you had to build on a lie, while I had to claw my way back from the darkness you left me in. Jess, he began, his voice choking as the weight of the conversation bore down on him. I saw the guilt flicker across his face like a candle struggling to stay lit against the wind. You can't fix trying to erase me, Mark, I pressed. You can't douse the flames of the pain you caused by pretending it never happened. There was no turning back now. I could taste the metallic tang of resolve on my tongue. I was done playing his game. I was here to reclaim my power. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry, he said, the tension between us thick and almost tangible, as if the universe itself held its breath. Sorry doesn't cut it, I shot back, my heart racing like a wild stallion in my chest. This confrontation had been years in the making, a long time buried beneath layers of hurt and resentment. I needed to finish what I had started. You'll say all this now, but when you go home, you will forget. I won't forget, he protested weakly. I will remember this. Please just give me a chance to explain. Explain? Explain what? Why you're still living a lie, claiming happiness while you'll never be at peace? I leaned closer, my voice barely a whisper. Not here for a casual reunion, Mark. I'm here for my justice, and tonight you're going to feel the weight of your choices. His eyes widened, and for the first time I saw a hint of fear in Mark's expression. What do you mean? Let's just say the pain you lit within me is a raging fire, and not even your apologies can extinguish it, I replied, letting the heaviness of my words settle around us like a dark shroud. I reveled in the shift in energy, alive with a sense of empowerment and purpose. I think you'd better go, he said, trying to regain composure. I smiled softly, coldly. Oh, I'm just getting started. As the corner of my mouth tugged into a smile, I saw the shift in him again. Was it guilt or perhaps understanding? The walls around his heart were crumbling, just as mine had, one brick at a time, until all that remained was raw vulnerability. Jess, don't do this, he implored, desperation creeping into his voice. You could find better. You don't have to let this consume you. Consume me? I laughed, the sound slick with sarcasm. You've been the flame that I've danced around. I was the moth, you were the monster, but this time I'm about to become the fire. A wave of dread washed over his features. What do you mean? I took a deep breath, allowing the moment to stretch between us, stretching taut like a finely tuned string, vibrating with unspoken tension. You will not get to walk away without facing the consequences. You'll feel every desperate moment I endured since our lives parted ways. You will understand the burden I've carried and what it's like to be a ghost of your former self. Mark shifted uncomfortably, shifting his gaze toward the door and glancing back at me, his mask of bravado finally beginning to crack. I continued to lean in, unwavering. Call it poetic justice. You thought you could erase me, but I'm here. I'm alive, and I'm making sure you feel me again. He stammered, struggling to push back against the certainty of my words. I will be the force of your reckoning, Mark, and when I'm done, I paused, letting the weight of my promise drain the color from his face, you'll wish you'd made different choices. I stood, straightening my back, the adrenaline coursing through me like electricity. With one last lingering glance, I turned my back on him, stepping away from the booth where I had spent far too long wrestling with ghosts. My heart thundered in my chest, buoyed by a dangerous mixture of fear and exhilaration, but I felt lighter, freer. As I walked toward the exit, fighting the urge to turn back, I could almost hear his heartbeat echoing behind me, desperate, frantic, and undeniably charged. The door swung closed softly behind me, extinguishing the last remnants of our conversation in a lingering hush. I stepped back into the vibrant chaos of the bar, a world filled with laughter and music swirling around me like a whirlwind. Tonight marked a turning point, an apex of my meticulously stitched revenge. There was no going back. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with the air of possibility. What waited for him in the aftermath of his choices would echo far beyond tonight. The fire of my spirit had been rekindled, and it would not be quenched easily. There would be a reckoning. And for the first time in years, I felt ready to face it. Jessica Milligan stood in the shadows of the alley behind the old warehouse, the cold air hugging her tightly like a shroud. Her heart pounded against her ribs, the drumbeat echoing the resolve coursing through her veins. Just a few hours ago, she had felt hesitant, fearful even, about the path she was walking. What if this vengeance ended up consuming her? But with the memory of her brother's lifeless body flashing through her mind like a lightning bolt, all doubts faded. She had come too far to turn back now. The alley smelled of damp concrete and rust, the kind of smell that makes you feel like you might slip into the past if you breathe too deeply. Jessica took a moment to steady her breath, feeling the rough bricks against her back. She clenched her fists, dirt streaked from the work of gathering information and putting her plan into action. Tonight was the night. Tonight she would finally confront Mark, the man responsible for ruining everything. Her phone vibrated in her pocket, jarring her from her thoughts. With trembling fingers, she retrieved it and saw that it was a message from her friend Leela. Are you sure you want to do this? The concern dripped from each word, even though Leela couldn't see the war raging within Jessica. A part of her wanted to scream back, of course I want to do this. Instead, she took a deep breath, her eyes reflecting the little light that crept into the alley. She typed back, I need to find closure. And before she could second guess herself, she pressed send. The message vanished into the digital ether, but it did nothing to erase the gnawing fear that something might go horribly wrong. What was she going to say to Mark when she saw him? Would he try to deny everything? Would he laugh in her face? A million scenarios danced in her head, but all of them began and ended with revenge, a sharp edge that had become her only ally in the darkness. As she peered around the corner, her heart raced when she spotted Mark, leaning against his sleek black car. The streetlights flickered ominously, casting shadows that elongated and twisted with the evening wind. He looked relaxed, his usual confident swagger on full display. His laughter echoed lightly through the damp air as he joked with his associate, a sneering man with slicked back hair. Look, dude, I told you, it's all about power. You take what you can and you grab them by the throat, Mark uttered, his voice dripping with arrogance. Jessica's stomach churned, anger bubbling just below the surface. Jessica stepped forward, each cautious footfall heavy with intent. She could hardly believe this was happening. A vision of her brother flashed before her. She could almost hear his laughter, see his broad smile. They used to joke about how he'd always stand up for the underdog, and now here she was doing it in his honor. She stood straighter, pushing the memories aside as she approached Mark. As she swung around the corner, Mark's laughter stopped mid-sentence, and he turned to face her, surprise wrestling with recognition. Jessica? He spat, his eyes narrowing, a flicker of something dark glimmering in his gaze. What are you doing here? Never breaking eye contact, she took a step closer. We need to talk, she said, her voice steady, though her insides twisted like a cyclone. Now, Mark's associate shifted uncomfortably, glancing between them, but Mark waved him away dismissively. This doesn't concern you, he said, his tone indicating he was already pulling back into his domineering cocoon. What do you want, Jessica? You think you can just waltz in here and demand my time? He leaned against the car, a smirk creeping across his face. You look ridiculous. The hurt flashed bright in her chest, but she gulped it down like a bitter pill. You know exactly why I am here. You took everything from me, and now I plan to make you pay. Pay, he chuckled darkly, crossing his arms over his chest. What do you think you can do? You think you're powerful? You're just some woman with no connections, no backup. You think I'm afraid of you? Maybe you should be, Jessica fired back, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice. You think you're invincible just because you've got money and a few shady connections? But I know the truth about you, Mark. I know what you did to my brother. The mocking grin fell from his face. You should really leave this alone, Jessica. Just go back to your normal life. There's no reason to make this worse. What, for you or for me? She shot back, her heart thumping loudly in her chest, mixing fear with fierce determination. You spun your web of lies and manipulation around my brother, and now I'm going to untangle it. This isn't just about revenge anymore. This is about justice. Justice? He laughed. What do you know about justice? You're a nobody. He pushed off from the car, taking a step toward her, and she instinctively took a step back, but then her resolve hardened. She wouldn't be scared off so easily now. I may be a nobody to you, Mark, but a nobody can still make a difference. You don't know what you're up against. She felt a rush of energy. I've gathered evidence. I know what you did, the money laundering, the drugs, the wreckage you left in my brother's life. I'll go to the police and they will listen to me. You can't hide forever. Evidence? You think some flimsy documents will change anything? He mocked. You don't get it, do you? I run this city. I have connections that can make you disappear faster than you can blink. You'll end up in so much trouble. His voice was low, dangerous, a snake coiling to strike. In that heated moment, Jessica felt a surge of control. But you won't kill me, Mark. You won't even touch me because you know I'm not alone anymore. You think you're untouchable, but I have people watching, ready to expose you. Your empire is built on fear, and fear is crumbling faster than you think. You made a mistake targeting me. His smirk didn't falter, but she saw the slight twitch in his jaw, the faint tightening of his grip. You think your little games are scaring me? You're barking up the wrong tree, Jessica. If you go through with this, I will ruin you. You won't even recognize yourself afterward. She took a deep breath, swallowing her fear. Great, let's do it then, because I would rather fight and lose than live under the weight of your control and manipulation. His expression faltered for just a moment, and for the first time she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe he was rattled. Maybe there was a chance she could do this. You're on a dangerous path, he warned, a hint of menace reflecting in his eyes. Then damn the consequences, Jessica said, stepping closer. I'm not afraid of you anymore. You may have taken my brother, but I'm here to reclaim the pieces of my life you shattered. And I'm not going anywhere until you pay for everything. With a final, venomous glare, Mark stepped back. You think you know pain? He hissed, animosity dripping from every word. You think you can play with fire and not get burned? I'll make sure you regret ever coming here tonight. He turned abruptly and stalked back to his car, his associate swiftly stepping in behind him, where Jessica could see the look of confusion and unease on his face. As the car's engine roared to life, Jessica stood there, panting. For a moment, the world faded away, her focus narrowing to the tail lights of Mark's vehicle as it sped off into the night. The reality of her confrontation crashed over her, a mix of exhilaration and fear coursing through her. She had done it, she had confronted him. She no longer felt small or insignificant, but she also knew that this was just the beginning. The battle lines were drawn, and it was time to fight back. The city felt alive around her, the distant sounds of traffic mingling with the sirens in the air. She took a deep breath, feeling the adrenaline still pumping through her veins. With every heartbeat, a new surge of determination washed over her. The path ahead would be dangerous, riddled with traps and betrayals. But for the first time since losing her brother, she felt alive again, fueled by a raging fire. Vengeance was hers to claim, and she would make sure Mark understood the price of crossing her. All she needed to do now was strategize and build her case. The wheels were in motion, and she was ready to see it through. It was time to become the hunter, not the hunted. With thoughts racing, Jessica turned and walked back into the storm of Manhattan, resolve shaping her every step. Taking a deep breath, she was ready to face whatever came next.